Be'ezras Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Zevachim Daf Nun Vav, number 56, and we're going to start from a new Gemara on Daf Nun Hey Amid Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. We know a Tameh is not allowed to go into the Beis Hamikdash, into the Azara. If he goes b'mezid on purpose, so then he's chayiv kares, the early death penalty. And if he does it b'shogeg, then what? He has to bring a carbon. So what is called the Beis Hamikdash? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Ein chayavin mishum tuma. One is not liable for the transgression of tuma. Ella al oirech meya. We go to Daf Numvav and Aleph. Oirech meya ushmoina v'sheva al roichav meya ushmoina v'shloishim v'chamesh. So basically, it's this picture over here. This is the sanctuary. You remember the sanctuary of the second Beis Hamikdash. Let's zoom out. So this whole area over here, all around. How big was that? So the Gemara says that area, the length was 187 amas, and the width was 135 amas. So that is the area that if a tummy goes in there, that's when he's liable for tumah. So back into the Gemara, Tana Kamed Rav Nachman. There was a Tana, young student who prepared brises before Rav Nachman, and he found a brisa that says, Kol ha'azara haisa, the entire azara was kuf pei zayin, al roichav kuf lamed hey. It was 187 on a width of 135. So Amalei, so Rav Nachman commented, Hachi Amali Abba, this is what my father told me. In that area, Kegoinze, in that place, Kahanim Nichnesum Lasham, a kohen goes in there, Va'oichlin Sham Kache Kachim. In that area, a kohen can eat their Kache Kachim. We know that when you shech the carbon chatas, who eats the meat? The kohen. Where does he eat the meat? He has to eat it in that area, in that part of the Azara. So that is the place of the Azara where a kohen will eat Kache Kachim. V'shaychetem sham kachim kalam, and in that area you can shecht any the animals of kachim kalam. Let's say a carbon shlamim. It says you can shecht it anywhere in this area. You can just shecht it because it's lifnei Hashem, and v'chayaven mishum tuma, and that is the area that if you go in there, you're chayev. Because you went into the Beis Hamikdash b'tumah. So there's halachas in that azara and its holiness. Says the Gemara Lamute Mai. What does this exclude? What area? I mean, if you're telling me that this is the area, it means this is the area, but something else is not the area which is nearby. Ileme, would you want to say Lamute chaloinus the losses of a window in the azara? The doors in the Azara, or the thickness of the wall. Let's see if I have a picture of the second basement. So let's say the thickness of the wall, right? The thickness of the wall. Or there was a windows in the window, is that an area of the Azara, or the doors, right? The losses v'oivei achaima tanina. We learned in a brisa, hachaloinus, all those windows, v'oivei achama, and the thickness of the wall, kilifnim, have a din like the Azara itself. So obviously, you're not excluding that. The ella lemute l'shachos. It excludes the offices, the offices that are around the Beis Hamikdash. Here we're going to have another picture. There's a lot of lishkos over here. Let's say a lishka over here, a lishka over here. We see where it's red. So all these things are lishkos, and they enter into the base into the azara. So what about in that room? Lishka means a room. In the room, is that a din of the azara or not? It's on the azara proper, but it's taking up space in the azara, but it's a different room. So what's the din with that? So the Gemara says, is you want to tell me that is excluded from the Kedusha of the Azara, that doesn't have the same holiness? Wait a second, that's not true. If it's built outside on the property of the Harabayas, but it opens up into the Azara. So then, V'atanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Teichen Kodesh. It has a din like the Azara. Inside is like the Azara. Hey, take a look at these rooms that enter in. I don't know if you can see it from an area of view. Let me see if I have another picture. Here, these things, there are rooms on the side that are built on Harabayas, but have an entrance into the Azara. And there's a Mishnah that says that has a din like the Azara itself. So what are we excluding that does not have a din like the Azara? Answers the Gemara that we're excluding. Midrabanim. That is only, it has a din of Kodesh midrabanim. But midaraisa, we don't say that it has a din of kedusha. It doesn't have a din of kedusha. Midaraisa, a tummy could walk in there. If a tummy walked in there, he's not chayiv kares. Says the Gemara deraisa loy. Are you telling me that these rooms that were built on the Harabayas, but it entered into the Azara, it doesn't have a din midaraisa like the Azara? Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Lishkais benuyas b'choil upsuches l'kodesh, a room that's built on the Harabayas, but it opens up into the Azara, into the Beis Hamikdash. There's a door that opens into the Beis Hamikdash. Menayin, how do I know from there that it's a holy place? Shakahanim nichnasim sham. The kahanim could go there. V'oichlin sham kache kadashim. They could eat there the carbon chatas. Now, you told that we know that a carbon chatas can only be eaten in the Beis Hamikdash. And this side room, which extends into the Harabayas, is probably considered holy enough that you could eat in that private room a carbon chatas, ushiyare mincha. How do I know that that's included? Talmud loimed, the Torah says b'chatzar oil moed yachluah. The Torah tells you. Let's see the pasuk. We don't have the. I don't have the pasuk over here, but it says that you should eat it in the chatzer of the oil moed. HaTorah ripsa chatzeris harbe etza achila achas. That means that there are many places that you can eat the karche kachim. Not only you can eat it in the Azara itself, but the Torah was marbe included those rooms on the side rooms where you could also eat kache kachim. So we see that it's holy enough to be in that side room that you could eat kache kachim. Presumably, it was holy enough that you're not allowed to come there when you're tameh. So how could you tell me it doesn't have a holiness regarding Tuma? Rava said, you're right, la'achila shani. To eat kachim there, that's considered holy enough. But regarding the Isser of Tuma, you don't get the kares of Tuma unless you're in the Azara itself, not on the side room. Says the Gemara, is that true? Aval inyan Tuma loy. Regarding Tuma, you're not chayiv kares if you enter those side rooms. But Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, lishkois habenuyas l'choil psuchas l'kodesh, the rooms that are built on the Harabayas, but open up into the Azara. Kahanim nichnesim l'sham. A kohen can go in there. V'oichlin sham kachim and can eat there the carbon chatas that he has to eat, as we saw in the previous Brisa. Here, the Brisa says one strange thing and another. First, it says v'ein shechtin sham kachim kalam. You're now allowed to shech there a carbon. It's too outside of the Beis Hamikdash. You can't shecht in that room a carbon. But it's holy enough, like the Beis Hamikdash, v'chayav mishum tuma, that you're chayev if you go in there, b'tuma, you're chayev karis if you go in there with tuma. So we see that the lishkei sabnuyas l'chob such kodesh has a din like the Azara itself. So this brisa seems to refute everything we discussed. Answers the Gemara, this brisa is a mistake. This brisa has something wrong with it. Lav amrit ain't shechtin. If the brisa is correct brisa, then how could the brisa say you can't shech there? It's not the Beis Hamikdash. You can't shech the kachim kalam. How could it say that? If it's the Azara, then you're allowed to shech there. So what does it mean that the side rooms is ain't shechtim? Therefore, lav amrit ain't shechtim. So therefore, if the brisa means ein sheichten, that means the brisa holds it doesn't have any kedusha and you're not allowed to shech there. So Taninami, so the Brisa lost the word, and you have to read into the Brisa ein chayavan. Brisa is a mistake. It says chayavan mishum toma, and you have to put in you're not chayavim toma. So again, that we're holding that these side rooms don't have the kedusha of the azara. So the Gemara says, wait a second, how do you know? Bishlama ein sheichten. I can, and even if it had the kedusha of the azara, I could say that the reason why you're not allowed to shech there is be'inin keneged pesach v'leka, because it has a kedusha, but you cannot see the opening of the Torah tells you that when you shech, it's supposed to be in front of the opening of the sanctuary. See, when you shech, you see in the picture over here. So anywhere you shech, you can see on an angle the opening of the Beis Hamikdash, of the sanctuary. Once you're in a side room, the reason why you can't shech there, even though it's holy, is because the wall blocks you from seeing the entrance of the sanctuary. So that's why you can't shech there. Ella ein chayovin amai. But what's the question is, why wouldn't I be mechayiv if a person, if a person, if a person went there betuma, it could still be holy that you're not allowed to go there betuma. These side rooms, you can't shech there. That it makes perfect sense. The Brisa holds it's a holy place. You can't go there betuma and yechayiv kares, but you can't shech there either. You can't shech there because it doesn't see the entrance of the sanctuary. So says the Gemara, Ulitaimeich ain't sheichten. You can't shech there. Milay askinim the ike shchita keneged a pesach. That must be the Brisa must be talking about. It's a room that if you open the door, probably you can see the opening of the sanctuary. The leka, because if you can't see anything, lamai itzrach. What does the Brisa have to tell you that you can't shecht? It's obvious. Ella, the Brisa is teaching you, even if it was possible to shecht opposite the opening, Tana ain't shecht. The Brisa holds it has no kedusha there, so you can't shecht there. Mishum delay kaddish, because it's not holy. Tani nami ein chayavim. So we'll say over here that you're not chayav. So basically, what the Gemara just got through saying, we're talking about over here. This is the way to remember it: a lishka, a room built off the side of the azara, right? Built off the side of the azara. Let's go make the room. So let's say you have a room that's built off the side of the azara, right? That's built on the Harabayas, but it opens up into the sanctuary. So the Brisa is a mistake, but the Brisa means to say that if a Tame walks into here, the Tame walks into there, he's not going to be Chayav Kares. He's not going to be Chayav Kares. Only if it's only I'm sorry, only if it's on the if it's on the if it's over here, it's on the Azara proper. But if it's a room that just is only on the side, right, and not into the Azara, you can't you're not going to be chayav mishum toma, and that's what we're saying. Only the Azara itself is chayav mishum toma, and nothing else. Says the Gemara, but the Brisa said you could eat there, right? Eating is because the reason why you could eat there, even though it's not as holy, is because eating, the Torah gave you a special reboy that you could eat your kachi kachim there. So they could eat their kachi kachim in this side room. Says the Gemara, back into the Gemara, Valachila loy be eating keneged Pesach. When you're eating kachi kachim, don't you have to be able to see the opening of the of the of the sanctuary? In order to be a kosher place to eat kachim kachim, you have to be able to see the opening of the sanctuary. Vatanya, we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Rabbi Yosef, Bar Yehuda says, Shnei pishpashim hoye bebeis chalifas goyvim shmoinim kedei lahachsher zara lachilas kachim kachim shchitas kachim kalem. The brisa says that here's a pish in this picture. There was a door somewhere over here, right over here. I'm going to make it, and therefore you can eat kachim kachim anywhere, even behind it, because it's almost like there's another open door that you should be able to have an angle into looking into the sanctuary. They made little doors all around so that you could technically eat kachim kachim right over here. You don't have to be in front of the sanctuary to eat it. You can eat it all around. So we see from there that in order to eat kachi kachim, you had to have the be able to see into the sanctuary, right? The hashas chitas orin kachi kachim or chitas kachim kalim. So the Gemara says, Amar Avina Sami Mekan Achila. You got to take out the word Achila. It's wrong. The only you need sanctuary for shchita, but to eat, you could eat off into side rooms. Says the Gemara. So it's a mistake. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, you got to just cut that out. Says the Gemara. Vaksiv, but doesn't it say Bashlu es hapasar by the 8 days of the Miluim? It says cook the meat, Pesach oil made, Visham tachlu oisei, and over there you could eat. So when they had these karbonos for the inauguration of the Mishkan, the Torah tells you cook the meat in front of the oil moed, and right in front of the sanctuary, that's where you should eat. So we see that you're supposed to eat in front of the open door of the sanctuary. And says Gemara, that was just a one-time thing. Katshe Shah Ashani. That's just a one-time thing for that period of time when they inaugurated the Mishkan and they had special karbonos. But a typical carbon chatas does not have to be eaten in front of the open sanctuary. It can be eaten off in a side room that does not see the opening of the sanctuary, and that's permitted for eating. However, when it comes to tuma, only if you enter into the main atrium over here, then you chayev kares. But if you go into the side room, even though you can eat kachi kachim there, but you're not chayev b'shum tuma. That's what the Gemara now concludes. So it's a funny type of kedusha. Now we have 3 lines from the bottom, 4 lines from the bottom of the page of Daf Nun Vav. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi says another topic. Menayin ladam shenifsel b'shkiyas achama. Question is, if you bring a carbon, let's say a carbon shlamim, okay, you have until, let's say you brought the carbon at 2:00 in the afternoon, so you have until sunset to bring the dam on the mizbeach, to sprinkle the blood. If you didn't do that, if the sun set, it's no good. The blood is disqualified. Shenema, because the pasuk says, "B'yoyim hakrivoy zivcha yeyachel." Torah tells you that when you bring a carbon shlamim, the day that you makar of the carbon, the Pesach, that you can eat it, and the next day, and the third day you should burn it. So we darshan b'yoyim hakrivoy, b'yoyim shata zaveach. Since it says 2 extra words, krivoy zivcha, the day that you slaughter the animal, atamakriv, that you have to bring the blood. But once it's the next day already, it's pasul. B'yoyim she'iyat zevech, but it's the day that you don't slaughter it because it's after sunset. Atamakriv, then you don't bring the blood. So then already you have until sunset to sprinkle the blood after you slaughter the animal. Once sunset passed, then you cannot bring the blood onto the mizbech. You can't sprinkle the blood. Says the Gemara, this pasuk is not extra. Haimi boyele legufei. We needed to teach you the plain meaning of the verse. What is the plain meaning of the verse? The pasuk says, let's bring up the pasuk. Here, the Torah is just telling you that a carbon shlamim, the you could eat it on that day, the day that you were makar of it, and obviously the next night and the next day. So it says that the eating of the shlamim is that day and the next day. So how could it teach me that anything about the blood? Answers the Gemara, and came name a crow b'yom zivcha yeyachel. The Torah could have just written on the day that you shecht it, eat it. Hakrivoy lamali. Why does the Chumash say b'yom hakrivoy ez zivcha? Why do you talk about hakrivoy, what you were makriv, what you brought onto the mizbeach on the day that you brought it onto the mizbeach? Shma mino, that teaches you this idea. On the day that you shechted the carbon, that's when you can bring the blood onto the mizbeach. B'yom she'iyat zevech, but it's a day that you didn't shecht because it's already past shkiyas achama. I'ata makrev, don't bring the blood. So the blood has to be brought right soon after you slaughtered the animals. Otherwise, the blood becomes pasul. Says the Gemara, V'dilma hachi kama. Maybe this is what the Torah is trying to tell you. Hachi kama rachmana. Karev dam ha'idana. If you, on the day that you slaughtered the animal, you brought the blood on the mizbeach, then it's achal basa idnu l'mocha. Then it's true. You eat the meat that day, that night, and the next day. But what the Torah is telling you, maybe the Torah is telling you, hey, I have an easier way. Karev dam l'machar. If you're going to bring the blood the next day, that's when the time clock starts. So let's say you shechted the animal on Sunday, and you didn't bring the blood until Monday, and you sprinkled it on the mizbeach. Then you'll have Monday and Tuesday to eat the carbon. The sachel, basal, the machal, and yom achrina. So the basal will be eaten on Monday and the day afterwards. So in other words, how do you know the Torah is strict and saying that if you don't bring the blood right after you slaughtered it on the mizbeach, and it's after shkia, then it's pasul. How do you know? Answers the Gemara in Cain. Name akra, the pasuk could be written b'yoim hakriva yechel. Whenever you bring the blood, that's when you can eat it. Zivchay lameli. Why does the Torah talk about the slaughtering of the animal? Shma mina, because it's dependent on the slaughtering. B'yoim she'ata zeveach, on the day that you slaughter it, ata makriva, then you have to bring the blood. B'yoim she'iyata zeveach, but the day that you're not doing the slaughtering, iyata makriva, then you don't bring the blood. So that's what we learn from here, that you have until shkiyas achama, until the sunset, to bring the blood on the mizbeach. If you didn't, then I guess the carbon is disqualified. So that's what you learn from that pasuk. Now, one last topic that we're going to discuss today is this. Again, we learned in the pasuk that a carbon shlamim, right? The day that you bring it, we'll call it the first day. The next day you could eat it, and the next night you could eat it, and the night after, and the next day. Okay, so if you brought the carbon on Sunday, you have Sunday to eat the carbon, Sunday night, Monday during the daytime. Then the Torah tells you Monday during the daytime. Tuesday morning, if you have leftovers, burn it. What about Monday night? What about the night after the second day? It's called the night of the third day. Okay, what's the din with that? Is that it's an in between time? So there we're going to have a machlokes. Itma we learn hamachashev, someone who thinks he's going to eat the carbon la'ar hashlishi on Thursday night, on the third night, the night of the third. Chizkiya ama kosher. It's kosher because it doesn't become pigel until you're going to think about that you're going to eat it after when you were supposed to burn it, after the third day. That's what makes something pigel. Rabbi Yochanan ama pasul. Rabbi Yochanan says it's pasul. Chizkiya ama kosher. Chizkiya says it's kosher because the the carbon at that point is not, you don't burn the carbon, you wait till Tuesday morning to burn the carbon. And on the night of Tuesday, on the night of Thursday, you're not burning anything. So therefore, if you think that you're going to eat the carbon the night of Tuesday, you didn't pasul the carbon. Rabbi Yochanan says pasul. You made the carbon pasul if you think you're going to eat the night of Tuesday. Because the Torah says you can't eat there anymore. So if you can't eat there anymore, so then if you think about that you're going to eat there, so then you pasul the carbon. And that's the question. If someone eats that night, he eats the carbon, chizkiya potter. You're potter from karas. Because you didn't eat nicer. Because the Torah says you don't burn it yet. You have to wait till the next day to burn it. Rabbi Yochanan amachayev. Rabbi Yochanan says yichayev because you can't eat it. So that's the point over here. In this night, right, you eat the carbon, but on this night of the third day, is it considered noiser yet or not? Rabbi Yochanan said yes, and Chizkiya said not. Chizkiya said not because the Torah tells you only burn it, the noiser, in the next morning. But Rabbi Yochanan said the Torah told you to stop eating at that on the nighttime. So already it's noiser according to Rabbi Yochanan at this point. So the Gemara says, Tanya Kavasu Rabbi Yochanan. I'll bring you a braya to Rabbi Yochanan. Kochim necholim yoyim echad, kochim that are eaten for one day. Let's say a carbon toida, right? The day you shecht it, and the night. So you could passel the blood by saying that you're going to sprinkle the blood after sunset. Or ubsar me'emerin, or you can passel the carbon by thinking that you're going to eat the meat or put the fats on the mizbeach, mishyal al meshacha, the next day. So then, after the next day, so then it can passel the carbon. But here, the Brisa clearly says, a carbon shlamim that's eaten for 2 days and one night. You could passel the carbon thinking that you're going to sprinkle the blood after the sunset of the day you slaughtered it. And think about bringing the Amorim after the next day. Ubisarim, by the meat, that when you think about that you're going to eat the carbon after the 2 days, at this point, then you could passel the carbon if you thought you're going to eat the carbon over here. So we see that, like Rabbi Yochanan, that this is an off-limit time zone that has a din like noiser. Even though the Torah doesn't tell you to burn it till the next day, it's an off-limit time period whereby you could passel the carbon with a bad machshava there. Tana Rabbanan, when rabbis taught, Yachal Yehei Nechol or Hashlishi, I would think that you could eat right over here at this point. The Brisa says, V'dinu, Zvochem Necholim Yoyim Echad, Zvochem Necholim Shnei Yamim. Some carbon are eaten like a toida for 1 day, and some are eaten for 2 days. Ma Zvochem Necholim Yoyim Echad, Lailach Rehem, a carbon that's supposed to be eaten for 1 day, like a toida, that day and the night afterwards. I would think, without any pasuk, that you would be allowed to eat the night after, because if you can eat during the daytimes, you could eat the following night. Talmud Loima, the pasuk does exclude that. The Torah tells you that only while it's during the daytime you could eat it, but you cannot eat it. You cannot eat the carbon when it's the night. The Torah limited that. So now, Yochel Yisar from Yan, I might think you'll burn it right away. Once you're not allowed to eat at that juncture, so you can burn it that night. V'dinu, and I will say it like this: You have a toida that's eaten 1 day, and a shlamim that's eaten for 2 days. Just like right after you eat it, you burn it. So when you're not allowed to eat it anymore, you're allowed to burn it. So I would think that you could start the burning at night. Talmud Loimer, the pasuk says, "B'yoyim hashlishi b'eishi sareif, b'yoyim ater soifa, v'ater soifa b'layla." You burn it during the daytime, but you don't burn it at night. So at night you can't eat it, but you burn it the very next day. Let's just quickly do the Mishnah. It takes a half a minute. Habachor v'hamasa v'hapesach kochim kalam. The bechor and the meiser behema and pesach, these are kochim kalam, which means shechitasim chalmokam bazara. You could shech anywhere in the azara. You could shech the carbon there. It doesn't have to be in the north. The damen ton matona echas, and you put one blood, one sprinkling. Uluvach you can side. Make sure you sprinkle the blood on the side, which means that as we said many times, that they're based the mizbeach, part of it on the east side of the mizbeach and the south side did not have a side. So you just do one sprinkling on the side on any of the marav on the tzafin side, but not on the mizrach. Now you do one sprinkling. But there's a difference. Shine b'achilasen, there's a difference in how it's eaten. Habachor, the nechalakan. The bechor behema is eaten by the kanim because it belongs to them. V'amaser, the meiser behema, the 10th behema, l'chol adam. That anybody could eat that. V'nacholim b'chol ear, and you eat it throughout Yerushalayim. B'chol machal, in any which way you can make it. You could cook the meat. L'shnei yamim v'layla echad. You have 2 days and 1 night. But the carbon pesach, it's only eaten during Seder night. You could only eat it till midnight. You have to be counted into the carbon prior to them shechting it, right? You can't join a meal after they slaughtered the animal, but you have to be part of the group prior. And it could only be eaten roasted. Okay, so it ends Daf Nun Vav.